Well, I welcome back Craig Kelly, and coincidentally last night I talked about bats. Craig Kelly and I have been on this wagon for years, but the bureaucracy rules. But there's other things I want to raise with him. Craig, good evening to you. Just a quick one on bats. Why shouldn't these dangerous, stinking, infection-riddled vermin be culled?
Well, Alan, I've said before I'd be happily take to these things with a flamethrower. We've got them near schools, especially down in my electorate. It's not as bad as it has been in the past, but people shouldn't have to put up with them, especially where the bats move in after people have set up their homes. It deflates people's property values, and this idea of it's the same ideology that protects these bats as we hear from these PETA activists that say, oh, you catch the mouse and release them sort of thing, as the problem with the mouse plague.
Yeah, but I mean, it's the viruses that they spread which are deadly. Now, Facebook, you're challenging Facebook and the ban that's been imposed on you for breaching, quote, misinformation rules. Are you confident that you can bring in medical experts from across the globe to testify in a defamation case?
Alan, absolutely. I have a platoon of some of the world's best medical experts that have been dealing with COVID at the coalface, that are prepared to testify in support of the statements that I have made, because I've in many cases quoted them. Facebook are yet to even say or even identify what I've supposedly said that's misinformation. We simply can't have these foreign tech giants being the equivalent of the Ministry of Truth and deciding what is fact and what is not fact, and deplatforming people because they simply go against this community standards that they have. It's interference in the Australian political system.
Yeah, I've got to say this, the prospect that Clive Palmer would help fund this, that's a personal matter which I'm not going to canvass with you, but you have made a very valid point. And I quote you, the reality is that unfortunately, even someone who's a member of Parliament can't afford to take legal action against a company like Facebook. And Mr. Palmer, I should point out, has said, quote, my admiration for Craig Kelly stems from his courage. Courage is one of the rarest things in political life today, and it's good to see someone who has the conviction to stand up for what he believes in. Now, I agree with that entirely, I have to say. But look, I want to raise this coronavirus vaccine with you. We've seen what's happening today in Victoria. You're going to move a no vaccine passport bill in Parliament. What support do you have?
Well, Alan, I've got, I think, great support from around the country. I've had the member for Dawson, George Christensen, second the bill. He signed that earlier this week in Parliament. We filed it with the tabling office, so it'll be up in the next week or two. It's simply, Alan, you shouldn't have to have medical papers to travel internally within Australia. If someone wants to fly to the Gold Coast, they shouldn't have to produce medical papers. If they want to go to the football or to the pub or to a concert or the opera house, they shouldn't have to show their medical papers. Because the idea of this concept of, a vaccine passport makes you safe, we know from the evidence overseas is nonsense. There are thousands and thousands of breakthrough cases where people have supposedly been fully vaccinated and yet are still catching the virus, still ending up in hospital and still unfortunately dying.
Well, just a quick one before you go. The 27-year-old girl that you've spoken to from the Australian Paralympic team selected for Tokyo, has she been told if she doesn't get injected with AstraZeneca, she'll be kicked off the team?
Alan, shamefully, yes. This is pure discrimination against our Paralympians. They are being told that if they don't line up to join this medical experiment and take this genetic vaccine, that they will not be selected. Now, that is a different rule to the Australian Olympic team. They are not being forced to take the vaccine. It's not the International Paralympic organisation that's forcing it upon them. It's not the Japanese government. It's not the International Olympic Committee. It is someone within the Paralympic movement within Australia that is arbitrarily putting this discriminatory rule against Australian athletes. Now, many of these athletes, this Paralympics, the idea they're sort of special need protection. Alan, I've seen some of these Paralympic sports that they play. These people are as tough as teak. They're tough and as hard as some of our best and most professional footballers.
Good on you. Look, we're lucky to have you, Craig Kelly. We're lucky to have you. Thank you for continuing to fight. You're an inspiration to many of us. We'll talk again soon.
Thank you, Alan.
Keep well and good luck. We'll be back after.